Thank you. We're going to start with some really happy news tonight. Visit Oxford has been named the 2021 Best Social Media Presence by the Mississippi Tourism Association. This award is given to a tourism entity that has effectively created a social media presence beyond Facebook. Visit Oxford has used Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter to promote community-wide events, to start dialogue with folks who are thinking about visiting Oxford, to showcase photos that best exemplify this Mississippi gem that we all get to call home. Because of the quality of life and quintessential Southern charm depicted through Visit Oxford social media accounts, they have experienced significant growth in followers and engagements. The frequent and well-constructed social media posts marketing Oxford as an energetic college town with a thriving arts and food scene have led to tremendous growth. Our Visit Oxford staff has absolutely set the bar so high in so many realms, and the entire Visit Oxford team are here tonight: Kenny Ferris, Jessica Lynch, and Nadia Thornton. But tonight I actually want to especially recognize Hannah Teven, who is the person who, and Hannah, will you come up if you don't mind? Hannah has been the mastermind behind our social media presence with Visit Oxford, and I just want you to know how much, come on up here because we got a little something for you. I just want you to know how much we appreciate you. And so Rick has something to give you, the official Oxford block. And we are so thankful for all that you've done. And, you know, it takes somebody Hannah's age to be able to do this in social media. And she is wise beyond her years and is able to tell our story so well. And Hannah, we thank you so much.
She'll say it on social media.
That's right. That's right. Her response will be on the Twitters in a minute. No, we have had a mighty busy past few weeks, which is wonderful. We are not complaining about crowds. We're not complaining about traffic. Well, maybe we are, but not, you know, if you're the mayor, you're not allowed to. But we are excited because it looks like the sales tax growth that we have been seeing, and our food and beverage tax and our hotel motel tax numbers that have been continuing to increase, it appears are very much on track to continue to do that. The LSU game weekend, I'd mentioned to you before that we had legislative staffers coming in, and we had 56 staffers from our legislative offices that joined us on campus. And it was a great opportunity for us to get to show them what, you know, we come to DC with pretty pictures to say this is what we need and these are our challenges. But it was such a great opportunity to get to visit with them one-on-one and to actually show them what was going on. We're expecting large crowds the next few weekends, and so, you know, brace yourself and do your grocery shopping on Wednesday. We have been following up on our MDOT issues, as I told you we would at our last board meeting. Executive Director Brad White came and visited last week and had lunch with us and let us have some real honest conversation about our needs here in Oxford. And we're excited that Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann will be here later this week to see some rush hour traffic on Highway 7. You know, I think that sometimes telling the story is one thing, but for them to see it is another. And so we're excited that he's going to give us that time to come and see, and we're going to keep on pushing. Thank you to the Oxford Tree Board, the Oxford Garden Club, and to Greg Pinion and our Building and Grounds crew for another wonderful Arbor Day celebration that was last week. And it was great to get together with those folks and be able to recognize them, but also great to see another tree planted in Oxford. You know, so many times people comment on our community and talk about what a gorgeous place it is. And one of the things that leaders for the past 20, 30 years have done is protect our tree canopy. And I think that makes such a difference when you compare our community to others. So thank you. And Greg, the work that your crew does not go unnoticed. Y'all may have seen there have been a lot of folks on ladders and in bucket trucks, and we only knocked down one light pole doing it, but we are getting ready for Christmas. And so you will, if you want to join us early before our next board meeting, which is November the 16th, if you want to join us a minute early, we're going to flip the lights up, the canopy of lights on before the meeting. So if you want to join us out front to see the canopy of lights come on, please do. We have received many calls at City Hall and have received many emails, as I know the other aldermen have, about a noise issue last night with a very loud band outside. And I want the folks who have called and who have emailed to know that those messages have not gone unnoticed, and that we are going to have an item on our agenda in 2 weeks to discuss our sound ordinance, ways that we can improve that, and we will be ready to hear from some of those citizens at that time as well. I know Alderman Heineman wanted to say a few words about that.
As with the mayor, I have spent the day talking to several residents as far as down at South Lamar in corresponding neighborhoods about last night, and I want to encourage the board to revisit the sound ordinance in hopes that we can maybe put a little bit more teeth into it.
Absolutely.
Yep, we will consider that at our next board meeting. So with that, I'll ask you to authorize the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting on October 19th, 2021.
Move we approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ask you to authorize the approval of accounts for all city departments.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ask you to consider the consent agenda with the additions that we mentioned earlier.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? I am going to ask the board to adopt a resolution to recognize Captain William H. Ketchum. And so I am going to read this for you all to approve. Whereas Captain William H. Ketchum, United States Navy, came to the city of Oxford on October the 1st, 1983 to assume command of the Naval Reserve Officer Training Corps at the University of Mississippi. And whereas Captain Ketchum utilized his skill and knowledge mentoring to ensure NROTC midshipmen were embodied with the leadership and aptitudes necessary to protect the future of our nation. And whereas Captain Ketchum and his lovely wife Janice fell in love with the people of Oxford, Mississippi, and made it their home upon his retirement after 30 years of distinguished naval service, June 30th, 1986. And whereas Captain Ketchum, as a superlative naval aviator and Navy leader, assumed leadership roles in the community, specifically at Baptist Memorial Hospital, North Mississippi, and St. Peter's Episcopal Church. And whereas Captain Ketchum has continuously demonstrated an example of leadership for all who served with him in the United States Navy, and as a community leader in Oxford, Mississippi, instilling hope for success and confidence in themselves. And whereas Captain Ketchum, a real character, that's in quotations, and a man of character, earned the loyalty and following of the officers and men with whom he served in the Navy, whereas the officers, men, and wives who served under Captain Ketchum as the commanding officer of Patrol Squadron 17 almost 50 years ago are gathered in Oxford, Mississippi to honor his leadership and that of his late wife, Janice. Therefore, be it resolved that the mayor and board of aldermen of the city of Oxford express their sincere appreciation and gratitude to Captain William H. Ketchum for his leadership and his significant contribution to the national defense of our country, for his mentoring and earning the loyalty of those with whom he served in the U.S. Navy, and for his active leadership and friendship he bestowed on the citizens of Oxford, Mississippi. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be spread upon the minutes of the city of Oxford, and that a copy of same be presented to Captain William H. Ketchum on this day, the 2nd of November, 2021. His crew is coming in town to recognize him, and they will be presenting him with this resolution. So is there a motion to accept this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? All right, next on our agenda is to adopt a proclamation honoring the University of Mississippi School of Law's first policy competition winner. I was contacted by Teresa Jones, who is the co-director of the Government Law Student Association at the University of Mississippi School of Law. GLSA hosted the law school's first ever policy competition last week. Competitors were required to draft a city ordinance either in favor of or against an issue in a hypothetical city. And the issue that they had to debate was whether the city should allow an open cup law, Ooh. Competitors delivered floor speeches in front of a panel of judges to advocate for their ordinance and then lobbied other student organizations for their support. I think that's an amazing project, and we are honored to be able to recognize the winner this evening. Whereas the Government Law Student Association hosted its first annual policy competition at the University of Mississippi School of Law, and whereas the 2021 policy competition provided invaluable professional development opportunities for law students interested in legal careers in government law, and whereas Mr. Samuel Taylor Rayburn was a competitor for GLSA's 2021 first annual policy competition, and whereas Mr. Rayburn successfully completed each of the 3 parts of the competition, including legislative drafting, oral advocacy, and lobbying, and whereas during the competition, Mr. Rayburn submitted a city ordinance in support of a policy, and whereas during the competition, Samuel successfully advocated for his policy in the audience of 5 judges, including Executive Director of the ACLU and former State Representative Jarvis Dortch, Professor of Law Christopher Green, City Attorney and founding member of Mayo Millette PLLC, our very own Pope Millette, Vice President of Community Engagement for the Environmental Disease Fund, and former Mayor Heather McTeal Toney. And whereas during this competition, Mr. Rayburn successfully lobbied 8 student organizations to build a coalition in support of his policy, including representatives from the American Civil Liberties Union, the Black Law Students Association, Entertainment and Sports Law, the Federalist Society, the Latinx Law Student Association, the Law Association for Women, Outlaw, and the Public Interest Legal Foundation. And whereas Mr. Rayburn scored the highest total points in the 2021 first annual policy competition, whereas Mr. Rayburn has accomplished all this while serving as a staff editor of the Mississippi Law Journal and student member for the International Legal Honor Society of Phi Delta Phi, IPE Board, Christian Legal Society, Government Law Student Association, Federalist Society, and Rod and Gun Club, you have no time for an open cup, Mr. Rayburn. And whereas we as residents and officials of the City of Oxford benefit immensely from students at University of Mississippi School of Law who are committed to public service and public policy. Now therefore, I, Robin Tannehill, Mayor of the City of Oxford and the State of Mississippi, ask all our residents to join me in proudly honoring and celebrating Mr. Samuel Taylor Rayburn for this accomplishment and for his commitment to law and policy. Please stand up. Thank you very much for being here tonight. Thank you for allowing us to recognize you, and I am very proud of your work and actually just in awe of that list of things that you are participating in while you're excelling in these competitions. So congratulations and good luck to you.
So do we get open cups or not?
That's right. You may want to get his policy and see if you can get it passed, big guy. All right. But you're going to need to do all the things that he's doing. You knew that was coming, didn't you? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so next, Seth Gaines, if you want to come up, we are going to have a recognition of Katie Jones for her participation in the 2021 Pitch Hit and Run Team Championship in Atlanta, Georgia.
So as they're coming up, one of the events that we get to host each year is we work with Major League Baseball and host their a local pitch hit and run competition. This year, Katie participated in ours, and because her score was so high, she got invited to go to Atlanta and compete at Truist Park. And I'll let her tell you how she did there.
You want to tell us? No.
She came in second place. She read this. She came in second place. She won for the all South Central region of the United States. So she puts it like in the top 8 or 9 in the United States in her age group. And she's been playing ball since she's 5-6 years old. Still playing now, loves it. It's 4 or 5 times a week practices. She's a pitcher. Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
It was really cool to see, like, I hit over second base, and it was really cool to see, like, the Major League Baseball players hitting there, too.
That is pretty cool.
She played at Truist Park. She got to hit
Look out. Way to go, girl. I love that girl power. That's awesome. Well, your community is so proud of you. Thank you for letting us recognize you tonight and for all of us to see what big achievements you are achieving at this young age. So keep hitting that ball and keep pitching. Absolutely, we're proud of you. All right, next on our,
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
Oh, I need to.
Did we have a motion on the item for Mr. Rayburn?
We did not, because I got excited and skipped over it. Could I have a motion to adopt the proclamation honoring Mr. Rayburn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Ashley. All right, next I want to announce that we have 2 vacancies on the tree board. I just mentioned the wonderful Arbor Day event. So that is one of the many things that our tree board helps us do. And they're a really creative, dedicated crew to work with. If you're passionate about the trees and protecting the canopy of our community, then send a letter to cityhall@oxfordms.net, and we would love to plug you in. All right, next on our agenda is an plant you in.
And we also need a motion on number 9, too.
For the love, okay. Recognition of Miss Katie, okay.
Second.
All in favor? All right, any opposed? Okay, I'm gonna try to get back on my game here, people, sorry. All right, next is an update from our Oxford Animal Resource Center. As many of you are aware, at a special called meeting of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen last week, Kelly Briscoe was named Interim Director of the Animal Resource Center. I've said this many times over the past few years, but, or of the past year, we tried to find a relationship with a nonprofit that would be able to successfully run the shelter, and this failed twice. And so that's why the City of Oxford took over the shelter, and while we run the Resource Center as an official department of the City of Oxford now. When we took over the Resource Center, we committed to do many things, including hiring and training professionals and committing to a level of funding that is necessary for the Resource Center to succeed. And we are still very committed to both of those goals. We recognize and appreciate the great progress that has been made over the past 6 months. The fact that there is a leadership change does not mean that all is lost. It does not mean our goals have changed or that our mission is altered. It means we're committed to our animals and to our citizens. You know, we're not a 501c3. We do not have the same leeway that a 501c3 might have to let some things slide. We operate under very different laws and guidelines. We cannot operate as a private business. We as a government entity have restrictions that 501c3s and private businesses just don't have, and that seems to be hard for many to understand. I want to be very transparent about how the board chose to name Kelly Briscoe to this position, and she is here tonight with her team. We have been aware of the challenges the previous leadership faced due to not having previously operated a government department, and there were also challenges due to the lack of knowledge of our local community. When I was elected in 2017, which seems like only 35 years ago, I evaluated every city department and asked everybody, what can we do to make this more efficient? How can we help you do your job better? How can we communicate better with our community? And a change that I made immediately was combining building, planning, and engineering. Those were 3 departments that work so closely together, but are so busy doing their work that they rarely had time to really communicate everything that was going on. So I asked Hollis Green, who was then serving as the director of the Oxford Conference Center, to take the lead of this development services department. His first statement was, "What are you talking about? I don't know a thing about planning, building, or engineering." And I said, well, I know, but you're the best manager of people and processes that I know. You're a great communicator and a consensus builder. We have the best city planner, the best building official, and the best city engineer in the state. I don't need you to know those things. You don't need to know it, but I need you to manage the people and the processes and be a great communicator. And I would say that that's been one of the best changes that we've made to how our departments are structured. This board firmly believes that this same type of skill is needed at the Animal Resource Center, and that Kelly Briscoe is just the one to provide that leadership. We are really excited that Kelly was up for this challenge. Change is always difficult, and I believe, though, that this situation has allowed us to evaluate what we've done well and what we can improve upon at the Resource Center moving forward. Kelly's a lifelong Oxonian who's been working for the city of Oxford for 6 years. She has proven that she has an incredible work ethic, that she has servant leadership skills, and that she has an unwillingness to fail. I'd say everybody on that row has an unwillingness to fail. And I think that's critical. Kelly understands that, we have a very customer service oriented culture here in the city of Oxford, and we're passionate about that being displayed in all of our city departments. I've seen criticism regarding Kelly's lack of experience in animal welfare or shelter work. I hear ya. I do, but I believe that the best way for the Resource Center to succeed is to determine the skill sets needed and put capable people in those spots. And that's exactly what I believe that we've done. Kelly is here tonight. As I said, she'll be introducing her amazing team, who I've never seen dressed up, and y'all look fabulous, by the way. That's not what you wear at the Animal Resource Center. People that she will be introducing to you have shelter experience. They have a passion for animals. It takes both skill sets to achieve what I believe this team can achieve, which is great success for our animals. This is a team that has already invested a lot of blood and sweat and tears and long hours and hard work in that Resource Center, and they deserve the credit for the success that the shelter has experienced so far. And so thank you to y'all for hanging with us. Thank you for the success that you've already helped us achieve. Kelly understands the management aspects of the center. She's already scheduled sessions to meet with Dr. Sarah Pisano, who has agreed to continue to guide Kelly in the Resource Center until her services aren't needed any longer. Kelly has made connections with shelter directors in surrounding areas, and she's going to be meeting with the Tupelo director, Rachel Allred, who helped us get started in the beginning. And so Kelly will be doing some mentoring sessions and shadowing her at the Tupelo shelter to figure out better ways to operate as well. I admit that I've been taken back, which is nothing new, but I've been taken back by some of the comments that I've read that people have insinuated that someone without shelter experience could not possibly be successful in directing a shelter. That's interesting to me, as I believe that our city is headed in a very positive direction with a mayor who has an art degree, a human resources director who majored in parks and recreation, a development services director who majored in political science, and an environmental service director who majored in family and consumer sciences. I have not called Bill Henning, who runs Baptist Memorial Hospital, North Mississippi, to ask him, but my guess is that he doesn't have any training as a doctor. I also bet that the Home Depot manager is not a trained carpenter. That's just me. But they all know what it looks like to lead, to manage people, to manage budgets, to be a good communicator, and to build consensus. We've received a lot of feedback about volunteers, and and this is nothing against Greg Pinion at all, who is a rock star. I am frustrated beyond belief at how long our construction process has taken, as is Greg Pinion. And we are both, if I knew how to do a darn thing but paint the wall, I would get over there and do it. But it's been a comedy of issues of our whole construction crew getting COVID and having to take off for 2 weeks, of supplies being delayed over the past 6 months, construction crews being slim on people. I was over there last week with Greg when the crew came in to announce that, praise the Lord, the supplies are in, but we do take off the first 2 weeks in November. Are you kidding me, people? So that's where we are. But we will get to the end of this construction, and we cannot wait to throw those doors open wide and invite our whole community to be a part of the shelter. We are accepting applications for volunteers. After visiting with the Animal Resource Center staff last week, I knew that perhaps all that communication had not been getting to City Hall, and we understand that getting volunteers is critical to our success. And Kelly made that a top priority, and she jumped on that immediately. And our goal is to have by tonight or first thing in the morning an application that people can fill out to indicate that they would like to volunteer. You'll see that on the city website and on our ARC social media. We hope to immediately welcome volunteers for play dates in the dog park, and we're going to make other volunteer opportunities available in the future. As I mentioned earlier, we are not a 501c3. We are not a private business. The Animal Resource Center is a department of the City of Oxford. In order for volunteers to be covered by our insurance, they must be recorded in the minutes of a city meeting by name being accepted as a volunteer. I've heard lots of speculation about why we're doing that, but I don't know how to be any more clear than that. You know, if you're there helping with a dog in the dog park and you got to break up a dog fight and you get bit, if you slip and fall because Canal just finished cleaning the floors that you could eat off of at the Animal Resource Center, then that's on you, but we still pay for your bill. If you are scratched by a cat, if you are injured in volunteering at the Animal Resource Center, which is certainly a possibility and risk that you are taking in volunteering there, we just want to be able to pay for your medical bills. And we want to be able to, you know, cover ourselves for our liability, and it's that simple. So that's why we're approving volunteers. I hope that that clears that up. I'm going to ask Kelly now to come up to the podium and give you just a quick update and introduce her amazing team, because our board hears about the great work you're doing, hears about all that is going on there, and I want our community and our board to be able to put a face with the names. So this is our rockstar staff. And this is probably their favorite thing to do, come to board meetings and be recognized.
I want to start by thanking the mayor and the board for this opportunity that y'all have all given me. I'm really excited about the direction the Animal Resource Center is headed, and I really look forward to being a part of its successful future. As the mayor said earlier, my role is to lead the department. I know you're all aware that I have not previously worked in an animal shelter, but I do appreciate your confidence in my ability to lead a department, manage personnel and a significant budget, and oversee very incredibly talented employees. I've taken the past week to get up to speed on where the Resource Center is in regards to the programs and policies in place in the budget. I have visited with employees as a group and individually, and I have assured them that their help is critical when we're moving forward. I appreciate the board's commitment to hiring these employees who are experienced in animal welfare to serve on our staff. I believe that my experience and knowledge in managing the people and processes will allow those employees to continue to focus on their efforts on animal welfare. I will make communicating with the public and the board a top priority, and will try to be as transparent as possible. The team at the Resource Center has done some great work over the past 6 months, and we're not planning to reinvent the wheel. We plan to keep the momentum that they've created and keep moving forward. I will continue to rely on their experience, all of it, and knowledge and hard work as we all move forward together. I want to introduce our team this evening. Like I said, they are amazing, hard-working people, and that is God's honest truth. Candace is our animal resource officer. She has a vast amount of experience in animal welfare, but what makes her a tremendous asset to this department and the Animal Resource Center is her passion and her work ethic.
Amen.
She goes above and beyond. Like I said, Candace's title is the Animal Control Officer, but I can't tell you how many hats and how many extra things she does for the center. We have Pernell and Kyle and Savannah. These three are amazing kennel attendants who work hard every day to make sure the animals are clean, fed, exercised, and well taken care of. Pernell has been with ARC since day one.
Yes, he has.
Literally day one. The services our kennel attendants provide 7 days a week is impressive, and I'm glad to have them on our team. The work at the Resource Center never stops, and I can assure you we are committed to all of its successes. As the mayor mentioned earlier, I will start by training and mentoring with Dr. Pisano and Rachel Allred in Tupelo. I've also reached out to other shelters and the local vets to introduce myself and to inquire how we can work together and support each other, and that is going very well. I appreciate the confidence you have placed in me, and I thank you again. moving forward, I will be giving regular updates regarding the ARC. Of course, if you have any questions, let me know. So far, since Tuesday, when I got put in, we have done several things. We went Saturday to the Cannon Canine Royal Competition, where we got a nice donation from them along with cannons. Today, we went to a fraternity house where we had dog days, took some dogs and some cats and played. Got a very nice donation from them. We have set up soon to go to Board and Brush. They've done a fundraiser with us. That's the next one that's coming up in about 2 weeks. And we plan to keep moving forward.
Absolutely. Thank y'all so much. And thank y'all for being here tonight too. It really means a lot to us for y'all to be here, for everybody to see your faces, and for us to be able to thank you in person. So thank y'all. All right, Jimmy, all good? If you would, oh, actually, I added 11A. I'm sorry, you can come on up. But just a quick, to accept a donation for the ARC. Ashley, do you have what that is?
Oh, we put that on the consent agenda. That was $770.
Oh, that's right,
Yep.
sorry. Okay, Jimmy, request permission to apply for an EMSOF grant through Mississippi State Department of Health.
Yes, if awarded, this will purchase hard equipment and training for the fire department for about 4 months. We don't know what the amount is. It's population based. They're using the new numbers and population this year, but as soon as I get that information, I'll let you know.
Wonderful.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Brad Freeman, come on up. Brad is here to request permission to award the bid for the double-decker field and Ebbets Field turf project at M Trade Park.
Yeah, this is a budgeted item. We had 2 bids come in, and just want to request to see if we can get the low bid for field turf, keep that project going.
In your budget?
It's in the budget.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. All right, Ashley, request permission for the mayor to sign the forms needed by the Bond Advisory Division of the Mississippi Department of Finance and Administration to finalize the process for the issuance of bonds as authorized in Senate Bill 2971.
Yes, this is for the $250,000 appropriation for the RSVP
Plaza.
renovation plaza. Yep, that project.
Yep.
So moved.
We've never turned down $250,000. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Request approval of a preliminary and final plat for case 2800, David Blackburn for the Summit Phase 2, Lot 1, for property located at Perry Boulevard, being further identified as PPINs 4705, 4706, 4707, 4712, and 38712. Mr. Requette?
This is, as you mentioned, it was a preliminary and a final plat request that will create one lot. It measures about 34.7 acres, has 60 feet of frontage on Perry Boulevard. You all might remember there was a request associated with use that was before the board for a sports complex at this facility. The Planning Commission recommended approval, as did staff, with several conditions in the report. All of those conditions have been satisfied today.
All right.
Move we approve. Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? All right. Ask Joey Gardner to come up and ask you to, we are requesting permission to accept a donation of a Vizio 50-inch TV from Walmart for the new Oxford Fire Station number 2.
Motion made.
All in favor? Any opposed? Consider policy changes for the Oxford Fire Department. Chief?
Yes, ma'am. Right now, we require someone to be with the department for 2 years before they can go to the driver operator class and qualify to be a driver. Due to our recent losses in personnel, we're running short on drivers, so we're going to ask that we change the 2 years to a 6 month. It'll be as soon as they get into the school, and they'll still have to pass, the driver operator class and our pumping test here at the fire department.
All right, just changes that we're having to make due to, our issues in keeping employees. All right, motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. First reading of a proposed ordinance amending Chapter 118, Sections 19, 22, 23, and 25, and adding Section 33, designated downtown pickup locations. Matt?
Yes, ma'am. So in our work session last Monday, we went over some recommendations that you made that you wish to put to the existing ordinance that we have, which is Chapter 118, vehicles for hire. And so in your packet, we do have those changes, and then we also have the ordinance itself pretty much in just kind of a workable form. And we'll go through each section and just kind of give you an idea of what we're doing. But we also did add a brand new section, number 33, that is kind of pertaining to the designated downtown pickup locations, and we'll go through that as well. So on section 1, that's going to be chapter 118, section 19, which is we're adding some definitions to that section. That's going to consist of riders, downtown area, and downtown pickup locations. For the rider, that means any person using a vehicle for hire within the city limits of Oxford. The downtown area means the area bound on the west by South 10th Street, Van Buren, and 9th, bound to the 9th by, to the north by Jefferson Avenue, bound to the east by 14th Street, and bound on the south by University Avenue as specifically designated in the map shown on Exhibit A. Then on designated pickup locations, this means the area clearly marked on pavement for the queuing of vehicles for hire to wait for riders in the downtown area during designated times. The name designated downtown parking area may be used interchangeably with pickup location for the purpose of this ordinance. And that's the changes to section 19 there. Then we'll move to section 22, which is our driver permits. We did add number 6, which is to agree to use the designated area, designated downtown pickup locations during the time specified as established in section 118.33, designated downtown pickup locations. Under section 3, we made a change to chapter 118, section 23, which is the revocation and suspension. We added number 9 there to say pick up a rider within the downtown area outside of the designated downtown pickup location between the hours of 9 p.m. and 3 a.m. Section 4, this is going to be an amendment to section 118.25, which is fares, fees, and receipts. This one, I pretty much just included everything in there, but just showed you what we were crossing out and then highlighted what we were changing or adding. The first big change would be to, on the second page, it's going to be a change to the fares that the actual companies would be making. We were told as a recommendation by the board that we would allow the companies to make up their own decision on what they would charge as long as that was posted within each taxi cab. So that's the major change there. Passengers must be informed of the fare before the proposed trip actually begins. So that's the big change there. The permit for itself, this is actually the taxi owner permit. So anytime an owner comes in and wants to establish a company, they used to pay $500. With recommendation from the board, we changed that down to $100. And then for driver permits, we changed it from 50 to 25. The next change would be under the letter E. This was basically just adding in the section that it would allow us to let the passenger know before the trip what the proposed rate was, and then we removed the language where it used to have $10 per person and a maximum of $2.50 for each additional trip or stop that was made during that trip. And then the final, this was a brand new section that was put into the ordinance, which is section 23. This is a designation of a downtown pickup location, and I'll just read through those just to kind of give you an idea of what those are. A, in order to promote the health, safety, and welfare of citizens by reducing vehicular congestion, creating a more walkable, pedestrian-oriented downtown, monitoring riders entering vehicles for hire. Vehicles for hire will be required to pick up riders located in the downtown area at designated locations between the hours of 9 p.m. and 3 a.m. daily. Letter B, the designated downtown pickup locations will be determined by the Oxford Police Department and approved by the Board of Aldermen. C, the designated downtown pickup locations will allow for at least 3 vehicles for hire to queue during those peak hours. The pickup locations will be clearly marked on the pavement. D, the Board of Aldermen reserves the right to change the locations, remove a location, add a location, or extend, reduce the designated pickup hours. And E, vehicles for hire violate this section by picking up a rider outside of these locations during the designated pickup hours. And that was the major changes that we had to the already existing ordinance and then adding in section 33.
All right, so this is a first reading, so this will be on our agenda in 2 weeks and will be there will be a public hearing at that time.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you very much.
Anybody have any questions for Matt before we go?
One quick question.
Okay.
looking at E, shall inform the passenger of the fare. We've never had meters before because it's just been bucks or it's whatever it's been. How are they going to, I'm just trying to figure this one out, how are they gonna inform, because you get in a taxi cab in another city and they've got meters, we don't have meters.
So in our existing ordinance that we've had, we've always told the companies that they have to put the rate charge cart in the car. So when you get in, you see the $10, you see the $2.50. So all they'll do is make a change to their rate chart, and it'll be whatever their designated rate is.
None of them charge by the mile.
Yeah. And so
I mean,
that's kind of what
we've always said within the city limits, you cannot charge more than $10, so that's what it's been. I mean, so.
You just need to let your taxis, and I don't know what they're planning on charging now, but they're gonna have it all put in meters if they're gonna go by the mile.
I don't know that they're gonna go by the mile then. I don't believe they will go by the mile. I think
Whatever
they'll
the
just
trip.
say it's this much for a ride, is what I think, but maybe they'll have different thought on that and come tell us. I mean, I'm not opposed to the meters or anything, but that's not how they've done it before, so.
Ordinance that's drafted doesn't prohibit them from using a meter, just says they have to.
Yeah, because I mean, if they want to have a mileage rate, as long as it's posted within the cab, then that falls in line with what we have.
Yeah, I mean, you know, what we don't want is for a bunch of people to get in the taxi and it arrives somewhere and then they're told an outrageous price, which is why we started the taxi ordinance in the first place, is trying to avoid. Now, if it's an outrageous price and you agree to pay it, then that's on you. So, okay? All right, thank you, Matt. All right, Chief McCutcheon, request permission to accept a $42,990 donation from Johnny Morgan for the benefit of the Oxford Police Department. This money will be used specifically to purchase a K-9 vehicle and upfits.
Yes, ma'am. Just for the vehicle, there'll be a different quote for the upfit.
Okay, all right. Well, we are so appreciative of this very generous contribution from Johnny Morgan, and do we have a motion to accept that donation?
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, request permission to accept a Walmart community grant in the amount of $2,000 for the benefit of the Oxford Police Department.
This is the same grant we do every year, is no match.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Request permission for 2 officers in the Oxford Police Department to travel to Phoenix, Arizona on December 9th through the 18th for training with the Arizona Forensic Phlebotomy Program at an estimated cost of $6,299.96. City will be reimbursed for all travel training expenses through the NHTSA Startup Law Enforcement Phlebotomy Program Grant.
Yes, ma'am. Our team
great
chose this.
opportunity.
This is the leading state that's running this program, and this is budgeted inside our grant, so it's covered.
All in favor? Any opposed? Request permission to approve an event permit for Visit Oxford to reserve the RSVP Plaza next to City Hall for the Chamber of Commerce's Holiday Open House on Sunday, November 7th.
Yes, ma'am. They'll have music, activities, and crafts, and so this is something that we can manage and handle and used to doing.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Second reading and public hearing for proposed ordinance amending Chapter 102, Article 20, Section 638B and 657, event permits. Chief?
No changes, so this just reduces our requirements from 14-day period, and it also encompasses our new sound ordinance.
All right. Are there any questions about that, or is there anyone here to speak publicly about this ordinance, as this is a public hearing? All right. So, hearing none.
Anybody here, I'd go ahead and make the motion to approve this.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? All right, great. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Consider the City of Oxford property insurance renewal from EMC Insurance Company for annual premium of $104,363.
As y'all know, this time of year that mid-November, the property insurance comes up for renewal. We worked with Tatum Brown, who is here tonight. He's here to answer any questions if you have any. We typically provide our several carriers our statement of values to see if we can get a lower premium. On the second page of the proposal that was in your board pack, you can see that Tatum, sorry, this one I highlighted, Tatum reached out to several companies, including Traveler, Century, Hartford, Liberty, and none of those companies were interested or could beat the premium that EMC already had. Just a little more detailed information about our property policy in this insurance review that Tatum made. You can see that since 2016, the property values of the city have increased from $49 million to $103 million today. However, the rate has stayed the same over that entire period. Since 2016, the city has a total incurred loss of $104,000. We have not had the loss in the last 2 years. Based on Tatum's recommendation, we recommend approval of this policy.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Consider proposals for Mark Watson, PE, for the structural examination and demolition recommendations for the old RSVP building.
So we got one step closer to demolition last night. We met at the courthouse square and they approved the demolition permit for the building. Along those lines, at the last work session, Alderman Addy mentioned a structural assessment, and so we have a proposal from Mark Watson for a not to exceed of $2,400 to have a written structural assessment of the building before we move ahead with the demolition. All that information will be put in the demolition bid and will be advertised with the bid. So
Okay.
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. All right, Bart, next we'll have a public hearing for Colonnade Crossing Tax Increment Financing Plan.
Just what it said, it is a public hearing. If the item is approved by resolution in the next item on the agenda, I would like for it to be contingent on the city clerk verifying some property values on page 8 of the TIF plan.
All right.
Public hearing, looking for any public.
All right, so if there's anyone who would like to make a public comment regarding the Colonnade Crossing Tax Increment Financing. Okay, Mr. Dickerson. Welcome.
Good evening.
Good
Thank
evening.
You. I'm Dick Dickerson. I think most of you have seen me before.
We got that.
I'd like to share some concerns that I have regarding the TIF for Colonnade Crossing and TIFs in general. And I appreciate you having this public hearing. In my opinion, the use of tax incremental financing in Oxford has been used too liberally. To date, over $19 million of TIF bonds have been authorized, and tonight you're considering another $6 million for a total of $25 million. When issued, the payback of $25 million in bonds will cost the taxpayers of Oxford and Lafayette County over $33.5 million tax revenue. It's based on a 15-year term at 4% interest rate. So instead of $33.5 million going to the general fund of the city and the county for the benefit of all citizens, it's used to pay back bonds on 4 projects that primarily benefit 4 private developers. We know that of the $11 million TIF that went for Oxford Commons, the first $4 million included $2,998,987 to pay for the construction of 3 roundabouts at Sisk and Highway 7. And that amount even included $218,000 of dirt work for the terrace, a private retail site owned by the developer. Of the remaining $7 million left in the TIF, developer will receive $6 million for infrastructure cost, with very little oversight of what constitutes infrastructure.
I don't want to interrupt you, but we are well aware of the numbers from all of the previous TIFs. This is really a public hearing regarding this Colonnade Crossing TIF, so if you don't mind getting to that.
Well, tonight, based on the public hearing for a proposed $6 million TIF for Colonnade Crossing to build 3 roundabouts at Molly Barn Highway 30 and various other infrastructure improvements in a private development. Tonight, that's what this is about.
No, tonight it's not. Tonight it's about just the 3 roundabouts. There's nothing in the private development.
Point well taken. We know that $750,000 will be for soft cost, and that the remaining $5,250,000 will go toward construction cost. First question I'd like to ask is, since the proposal proposed TIF is primarily for building 3 roundabouts. What's the estimated cost to build them?
$250,000 roundabout cost that we've seen from engineers, possibly be higher than that, but right now that's where they're going.
So the roundabouts themselves will cost $5,250,000.
Whatever their cost on those roundabouts will be the only thing that they can take out on this TIF. If they cost $4 million, then they're on.
There's no infrastructure within the development included in this TIF. It is strictly for improvements on Highway 30 and Highway 7 exit ramps.
100%. We made sure of that.
That's the best news I've heard all night. That's a point that I've been trying to get across for a long time. Has an traffic impact study been done on this project?
MDOT did. As a matter of fact, these improvements are being required by MDOT in order for there to be any further development in that area. So yes, MDOT performed whatever traffic studies were required for them to make this a requirement of this development.
Great.
It's only an improvement on an MDOT roadway, understand, it's not a city street. So that's why MDOT, I'm saying, does those studies and makes those recommendations is.
I think a traffic study had been done back in December of 2020 that showed that with the service station there was no need for roundabouts. But,
that's right.
So it's been updated since 2020, December 2020. Okay.
It was examining something other than a gas station. So yes, it's been updated. That was based merely on a proposal of a gas station.
I've noticed that on 2 of the last 2 TIFs, that when the development and reimbursement agreement was negotiated, that it had an 8-year termination, that the bonds had to be used before that, or they would not be issued after 8 years. Is that likelihood that still stand in this one?
They have to make their bonds, they have to make on this one the 5.2 or 6 million or wherever we end up at, depending on the cost of the roundabouts. They have to have made that much in tax before anything will be paid back.
Right, but you're not going to issue the bonds until the money has been set aside.
Correct.
And it's enough to service the debt.
Correct.
Correct.
After a 1 year.
After we collect the growth and we set the growth aside every year, so after every year when the new tax roll comes out, I analyze all the numbers and that amount is set aside, and until that number reaches a certain point where it will serve a bond issue or bond payment, we don't do anything.
So if that goes, if it's not enough to service it within 8 years,
then it
zero.
Nothing happens.
Okay, good.
Which is one of the beautiful things of a TIF.
Not the first one. First one, he's got 20 years to answer for it.
I think it was 15.
I don't really, it was 15 or 20, but.
I believe it's.
Our first one, yes.
I believe it's 20 or maybe 30 years.
It's 30-year bond payout, but I think it's big.
Okay.
I don't have it in front of me.
Well, this one, we have learned, Mr. Dickerson, from each step that we've taken, and we've tried to implement things that we've learned in ways to move forward more efficiently with these projects. But it's also a way for us to get needed infrastructure improvements in a community of 28,000 taxpayers that is supporting infrastructure for 60,000 most days, and LSU game weekend over 200,000. And so that is probably something that the taxpayers of Oxford would never be able to implement if we did not partner with developers and get some of these roadway improvements done at their risk. I mean, that's just where we are.
I agree with your working, the way you've developed it. In the past, I had certain concerns because a lot of developers were getting money for their projects. It did not go toward the more public parts of the
Well, and
construction.
every one of these has been very different. Developing in Oxford Commons with 2 public schools, a conference center, and things like that, made that a very different project than the others that we've considered. And so it's hard to compare them like they're apples to apples. They're very different concerns, very different challenges that we've been faced with, and quite honestly, it just affects the decision-making on how desperately do we need this? We desperately needed that right then at Oxford Commons. So, you know, I mean, we can all look back at it and go, oh, we should have done this different, we should have done that different. That's easy to do on every decision we make. But I will say that we are making decisions with the best interest of our citizens, we believe, at heart, and that's what we're gonna keep doing. But this one is strictly limited to Highway 30 improvements, and that is it, so.
Okay. Thank you for
Thank
allowing
you.
me to express.
Absolutely. All right. Anyone else that would like to speak about this TIF plan? Okay, if you want to address this.
Couple of things.
Okay.
Would be relevant, Mayor.
Okay.
Chris Stewart and Associates on behalf of the developer. Most everything I think was covered.
Do you mind coming up here so that people that are listening can hear you?
Most everything I think that's relevant was just discussed, but a couple things I'd like to point out. At this point in time, the length of time between approval and bond issuance is an open issue at the moment. The development agreement, ultimately, if the city favorably considers this TIF plan, you'll be presented with a development agreement where contractually that's where the city would agree, and that's a document to come. The previous project had 8 years, was 48 acres, 3 million in bonds. This is about an 88 acre development, almost double. The bonds are almost double. We're not gonna ask for 16 years, but we certainly would like equitably at least as much time as the previous TIF, 8 years. I'd also point out—
It's all negotiable.
I would like to point out that we met with the county yesterday. The county voted unanimously to set their hearing for November 15. And I've spoken with Commissioner Caldwell and Mitch Turner yesterday, and then Commissioner Caldwell again today. And the city's last communication about the limit of the maintenance was well received by the commissioner and MDOT, and said hopefully they would take care of the open issues related to that. Assuming that the county acts favorably on the 15th, we would come back before this board, ask that the MOU with MDOT be considered, the interlocal agreement with the county, which is standard when you have a joint TIF, and then we present a development agreement. I think you're fully apprised that plans and specifications are ready, and as soon as these approvals could occur, work could begin in short order on what are much needed improvements for the city. And as y'all have talked ad nauseum, much different than the other projects, 100% of the TIF monies that would be reimbursed are in public right-of-way, MDOT right-of-way and city right-of-way, which do make this project significantly different than all the others. And your bond lawyer, financial advisor are here. We kind of, this stuff happens all over the state, and I don't ever recall in 26 years of TIF work a project being 100% off of the developer's project like this one. So
sure.
I'll say that y'all are evolving in a manner that is very consistent with your statements about public improvements.
I want to just clarify that my understanding is correct, that Commissioner Caldwell has stated that the city will not be responsible for the maintenance of Highway 30 and Highway 7 other than the one roundabout that would be a gateway into the city.
Correct, and he was perfectly agreeable to signage as was discussed in landscaping and things of that nature as one of the gateways to the city.
I would be perfectly agreeable if somebody told me they were going to build all my roads for me too.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So next, consider a resolution approving the adoption and implementation of the tax increment financing plan for Colonnade Crossing.
And again, if you move to do that, I would like for you to make contingent on Ashley verifying the numbers on, I think, page 789 of the.
Page 8.
Page 8.
Page 8.
Second.
All right, any comments or questions from the board before I call for a vote? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. All right, I would ask the board now to consider an executive session.
Move to consider.
All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Thank y'all for coming.